Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bardstream. I hope you all are doing well. Doing a Friday evening Bardstream. This is not a typical day, and even a little bit later than I usually do, but this is just how it worked out for me this go around. So, thank you all for being here. And see Glenn in the comments, GM of Myriad Legends. I got a little bit of news about Myriad Legends. Good to see you, Glenn. Have some various updates. So I think I'll start off with doing a drawing. That's usually what I like to do at the beginning of these Bard streams. So let's switch over to the Wheel of Names, and I'll do a couple spins of this, draw a couple patrons to receive a reward of choice. If your name is drawn, can I say drawn? If your name is selected, I will reach out to you by Patreon message and also by email. Oh my gosh, we have 2 months in a row for Thomas Peterson back to back. Congratulations to you, man. Wow. This is very strange. I'm copying over your names like 2 lines in a row, 2 consecutive lines. Well, that's how it can go. This is the Wheel of Fate. Good luck, everybody. Second spin here. We're going to get David the Barbarian. I really hope so. Oh, I'm so happy to see that. David the Barbarian, a classic commenter. David, are you around? I don't know. You're like a classic commenter on the YouTube videos, so I'm thrilled to see your name. So congratulations, Thomas and David, and I'll reach out to you guys shortly, and you can let me know what you would like for your chosen reward. Yeah, wow, bunch of different things I could talk about, but I made a list, so hopefully I can stay organized and get to a little bit of Q&A. And I need to keep my YouTube window open because for whatever reason, OBS is not showing me the chat. OBS isn't showing me the live chat. That's okay. I got my YouTube panel open here. Okay, so Myriad Legends is picking up the pace, picking up steam. I've been working at it, and also the dev, Mikhail, has been working at it, and the admins and GMs have been working in their own ways and contributing. But I've really been devoting a lot of time and energy and effort to Myriad Legends over the past, say, month and a half. Yeah, somewhere around there, a lot. And I mean, even before that, it was a fair amount, but especially this past, say, 90 days, not 90 days, but 45 days or so. And we've got things at a really great place. For those who have not heard of this yet, Myriad Legends is our community D&D campaign. It is a living world campaign. So it's set in the world of Ikoros, where you see some of my YouTube video adventures and my books and whatnot. They take place in this setting. It's a mythic fantasy setting, a deep fantasy setting. So that is going well. We're hitting a wonderful stride, and we're growing. We seem to be at a place now where we can scale, and we'll see what the limit is on how big we can get. On that note, we are accepting players. So I'm glad to announce that. Anyone who is watching or listening, who's been wanting to get in as a player, or maybe you're just hearing about it now for the first time and you're interested in getting in as a player, follow the link down in the video description. It's the link to my Discord. So join the Esper the Bard Discord, and then send a DM to one of the admins that's listed there. Again, it's in the video description. So just join on the Discord and then message an admin. We'll get you added into the campaign. There are lots of GMs and lots of players all contributing together in this really amazing community and an amazing living world campaign. It is a free campaign. It's not a paid campaign. We just, ask that you do your best to contribute to a high quality D&D campaign and setting. That's what we're trying to do there. We're trying to get better as GMs and players. So look forward to seeing you guys around there. I'm quite active, and a lot of people are very active there. It's a very, very alive sort of community. We recently finished up a new season of GM pilots. So the game masters apply to become GM in Myriad Legends. It's, I guess we would say, a title of esteem, has meaning to it. And so the GMs are vetted so we can, make sure that we're maintaining, that emphasis on quality, on great adventures, focusing on great adventures, and people who are on board with developing the style and the lore of the world of Ikoros. It was an unprecedented pilot session. We've gone thus far 10 out of 10 of accepted GMs. Who knows? I think there's a pilot session going on right now. One cool thing about the community is you can actually spectate the games as they're live. You can just go in quietly with your microphone on mute and just watch and listen to like any of the sessions while they're going on. So it's super cool. I think we have a pilot session going on now, or maybe it just ended. So hope that went well. But yeah, we've gone so far 10 out of 10 accepted on the GM pilots, and that's awesome. I think the most we've had in a row previously was like 5. I believe 5 was our record. So we like exploded that record, like blew it out of the water. So congratulations to all the new GMs, and you guys hopefully are feeling warmly welcomed, and we really look forward to you running great adventures that players are going to love to play in. And we'll just kind of ongoing be also accepting applicant GMs. So as long as you play a couple sessions first, you can email esper@esperthebard.com and apply for GM. Just make sure to include your Discord name, your name, your time zone, and your VTT of choice, or theater of the mind. If some GMs actually don't use any VTT at all, which is cool. I'm down with that. So Myriad Legends, growing, expanding, evolving, developing, branching out, taking root, taking form. We are exploring through the mystifying passageways of the great halls of heroes and treading in the footsteps of legendary adventurers. What else? Yes. I'm working on a new Brotherhood of Feralstead episode. Glad to say that out loud, publicly. Actually, I hoped that I would have had it done. I don't know how to say that. I wanted to have it done this week. That's what I was hoping for, but that didn't happen. But I'm really far along. I've got a lot done. I'm basically at the point now where I just need to record the narration and then edit the whole video together. But other than that, all of the really heavy lifting, more labor intensive parts of it are done. The editing will be sort of labor intensive, but on things like this where I have a full script that I narrate, the editing flows pretty quickly, and I've got like the images ready and the screen recordings of like the VTT action. So part of the reason why it's taking me so long is that it's a big one. It might be the biggest one yet. This might actually be the longest episode of the Brotherhood of Feralstead. I don't have a name for the episode yet. I have been thinking, and I haven't been able to figure it out yet. A lot of things happen in this episode. There's a whole bunch that happens. So there isn't really just this one main thing that I would name it after. So I've been hoping that an idea will come to me that encapsulates the overall spirit of this episode. Something will come. It always does. Just this one's being tricky. It also took a couple months. I thought it was going to come out faster than this. I thought I was going to have it done like a month or two ago. After I made the Blood Pit episode, I already knew what was going to happen in the next episode, and I thought, oh, it's going to be out soon. Haha! Lo and behold, the characters spoke to me a little bit more and said, actually, there's more that's going to happen. So that had to take its time to develop and simmer in whatever mysterious place of the mind that is in the imagination. And then finally it was ready. And all I have to say is, wow. Wow. Now, I know obviously I'm biased. It's like my own solo campaign. But wow. Wow. Now Blood Pit also gave me that feeling too. When I finished Blood Pit, I also thought like, wow, that was intense. Like, yeah, as I was playing it through, I was like on the edge of my seat. Um, the new one's kind of like that, but it also has some very different things in it that when the inspiration came, when the muse sang, I thought, whoa, that's gonna happen. We're gonna see that, and yeah. So I don't want to spoil anything. I really don't. I don't want to give anything away. I want it to be just a complete, uh, a dive in for you all, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. I don't know how long it's going to be. I think it's going to be long. Um, I don't know, hour and a half maybe. It's a big. It's a very big one. A lot of things happen. Um, too soon to say. Too soon to say this. But as of right now, at this very moment in time, it might be my favorite episode. It hit me in some ways that none of the others have. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to stop talking about that. Glenn suggests Brothers in Arms. Yeah, I don't know. I've had some inklings of ideas that maybe there's brothers, brotherhood, warriors in the title. I don't know. It'll come. It'll come. They always come. Um, I recently have started a new adventure thread, a sandbox, and this is in Myriad Legends in the community campaign. The first session was just this past Wednesday. The second session is going to be next Wednesday. So it's a sandbox style region, and I've done a ton of prep. I've done too much prep. I over prepped. I've done some sandbox things before, but this one is the biggest sandbox that I've ever created, and it's been a while since I've done sandbox. I've been in Gauntlet Runner mode for like over a year now, so this is kind of the opposite of Gauntlet Runner. But some lessons I've learned from Gauntlet Runner I've been able to apply on it. That's cool. I already learned some lessons from the previous session. One is like how to handle random encounters. Now there's many different ways to handle random encounters and to check for random encounters and to do random encounter tables. And I'm very interested. I'm very fascinated by the different approaches and design ideas for handling random encounters. The one that I designed for it, that I used this past session, I think it went pretty well, but there was other parts of it that I didn't like. There were some parts of it that were like clunky and too much like tracking on my side of things. And as a GM, you already have enough on your plate. So I've done some modifications, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break each day up into quarters. And this was a suggestion of a couple of the players. I'm going to break the day up into 4 quarters, 4 6-hour chunks: morning, afternoon, evening, night. And then each of those quarters, I roll a D100. And then I have a encounter. This is not even a table. It's like part of the document, part of the Google Doc. So there's a section in the Google Doc that it has to do with the results of that D100 roll. And it could range from a positive thing to a neutral thing maybe just no encounter, or I comment upon what the environment is, kind of taking in the environment, to a kind of a low challenge encounter, maybe something that it may not even necessarily be dangerous, but it could be, depending upon what choices the characters make, to like moderate difficulty, and then all the way up to the high difficulty, right? Like if I roll a 100 on the D100, that is like the hardest random encounter and could potentially be devastating. So I think that's going to work well. I really just have to that random encounter approach. I think is going to work well. It's just the one D100 roll at the 4 main phases of each day. So yeah, I'm thinking that's going to work out pretty well. Another lesson I learned is that you need to give the players plenty of meaningful decision points. If they just have like a few points of interest on a map and then a largely unexplored map where they don't know what's there, it's just still kind of blank, and you give them just like a little bit of information about each point, that could be enough to get the ball rolling, but it's not a lot to go off of. There were definitely some moments where I felt like, oh yeah, they don't have a bunch to go off of. The energy isn't quite as high as I'm wanting it to be. I want something they can kind of, sink their teeth into, have a little more traction with, to know a little bit more clearly, like, here's a goal. What decision do we want to make? How do we want to approach that goal? How do we want to get there? So I'm thinking maybe a better idea is, on the map, you focus mainly on the characters moving from major points, from one major point to another major point, or always moving towards some major point of interest, some major location, and then along the way they'll come across the secondary locations. The reason that came to me is because the map, as I've made it so far, it does not distinguish between major locations and minor locations or secondary locations. So, the characters might end up traveling like a whole day to get to a location, and they're thinking like, whoa, we're going to get swept away in fantastic adventure when we get there. But then they arrive and it's actually just a minor location where there isn't really any, there are like monsters there. There isn't any big treasure or any huge dangers. There are just some minor things that, they have relevance, and, they could lead to role-playing scenes, or they could give you a little bit of information, or maybe a minor treasure, or, they have to do with developing the tone and the world building of that area. But I think it would be good if the players knew a little bit more in advance. I don't know, is that contrived? I don't like things that are too contrived, so I'm not doing a hex map. I like things that feel a little bit more organic. There must be something I can do which will still feel organic and natural, and can help the players understand, like, this place is a major location. If you go there, you can expect to have like content to really sink your teeth into, and there's going to be dangers and challenges and adventure and probably some kind of cool treasure to find. And then I think that will help in the decision-making process. So some other lessons I learned from it, I might end up making a video about it, or maybe I'll do another live stream about it. I'm going to jump over to the chat and see if got some questions. So we'll jump over to Q&A. Looks like there's a super chat here from Vulpus Corvum 7602, Fox Raven 7602. Thank you very much. Enjoying your content as always. I wish you could make more videos about forgotten D&D creatures, especially from those past game editions. Thank you very much for saying that. I think I will make more videos of that kind. Over time, I have perspective on the different types of videos that I experiment with. I come to like or dislike certain types of content more than, I come to like certain types of content more than others. Some videos or like video series I end up liking more, and others I end up not liking as much. So lore about forgotten monsters, obscure monsters, monsters from editions past, is something that still is sparking my imagination. Actually, you just made me remember there was a day where I was going to make a video of this sort, and then at the last minute or whatever, a different idea came to me, and I made this other video instead. But I'm going to be making a video, or I intend to be making a video. It's like on the to-do list of videos to make, and I think the title is going to be my favorite 4E bestiary, and it's going to be a video about Monster Vault threats to the Nintir Vale, or threats of the Nintir Vale. My favorite bestiary from 4E, I think, is probably the highest quality one that they put out. It's actually a softcover one, and it's not that big. It's not like a big, thick hardcover bestiary. It's not like a monster manual kind of book. But the focus on quality is really what won me over. It's definitely a quality instead of quantity kind of bestiary. It's a bit later in 4E, and it's a little bit different. It's not just quite a generic bestiary or like a typical monster manual. It has more lore to it, and it goes a little bit deeper. In fact, I think the best mimic ever, of all time in official D&D books, is from Threats to the Nintir Vale. It has some really cool monsters in there. It even has some great art. There's a couple art pieces that are surprisingly good. There's one of the Tiger Claw Barbarian clan. There's a number of factions of creatures and NPCs in this book. The Tiger Claw Barbarian clan artwork, it almost gives vibes of like those great like master painter illustrations from second edition. It's not quite that, but it's in that direction. There are some surprising great art, creature stat blocks, and lore in that book. So that's my plan for the next monsters of days bygone videos. Adam Shea, I might be mispronouncing the name there, please forgive me. Could the Brotherhood meet groups in Myriad Legends? Technically, that is possible. They are in the Rhinelands region in northwestern Magnaland, like far north by northwestern Magnaland, very close to the border with Niperna. There's even a sort of an Nipernian influence to that part of Magnaland. Like there's some similarities in the culture. It's not quite the same as what we think of with like a big portion of Magnaland. So there's not a GM that runs games in that region. But that's the idea of this Living World campaign, or the idea of Ikoros, is that it is alive and this is all taking place more or less real time. I mean, we have to be a little bit flexible with time just because of the practicalities of running adventures and having so many people involved. But it more or less is supposed to be coherent and consistent and all connected. So, yeah, I guess in a way, somehow that would be possible. It would require a GM to run that adventure. So that'd be me, obviously, because the Brotherhood's my campaign. So, gosh, I don't know. Would I want to cross those wires? I don't know. My knee-jerk reaction is I wouldn't want to just run a typical Myriad Legends adventure and have the player characters meet the Brotherhood characters. But yeah, never say never on that one. I'm not going to completely rule it out. That's just sort of my knee-jerk. Why do I think that? My solo campaign, like the narrated adventures, they have a very special place in my heart, and I try to really keep it. I guess that's that's two different reasons. One is that they're very special and dear to me, and I am concerned that it would harm the spirit of it if I blended that with like a typical D&D session. And then the other reason is that I when I do these like narrated adventures, I usually have a very tight focus on tone and style. Now, that's not to say the right players couldn't like that and want to play in that style. So it's not impossible. It's just a little bit more challenging. It's a really interesting question. It's actually not something I've ever even thought about before. Oh, we got another super chat, also from Vulpus Corvum. Apologies, I am Nothic. Oh, Nothic. All right. And then the I. Whose I might that be? I am hungry for all knowledge and all time. I'm hungry for all knowledge all the time. Yes, some love for 4E. 4E deserves some love. I don't think 4E deserves like angelic trumpets and accolades, but I also don't think it deserves all the hate that it gets. And it's interesting to see some TTRPG books that are coming out nowadays that actually are taking some inspiration from 4E. In fact, I'd say the new 5.5 D&D or like the 2024 D&D stuff, it has more sprinklings of 4E in there than 2014 does, for sure. Yeah. Bloodied is an official condition again. The weapon masteries feel very 4E. And then Draw Steel, the Matt Colville TTRPG, it reminds me a lot of 4E. I don't personally ever want to GM 4E again. I don't think I would do that. I would play as a player in a 4E adventure, or maybe even a campaign, perhaps. But I GM'd it a lot, and I created a lot for it and ran its course. And it doesn't hold up for me over time like the others do. But in its own way, it's a cool game. We've got another super chat as well. Let me jump over to that. I'm going to be jumping back and forth a little bit here, but I'm going to try to get to the comments here. From Mark Stebbins. Mark, great to see you. Another classic commenter. Hope you're doing well, bud. Seeing the growing population of Tier 3 player base in Myriad Legends is what he's talking about here. Are there ideas or plans for how Myriad Legends will deal with level 15 through 20 players? This has been a topic of discussion among the GMs more than once. So we have some different ideas out there. It does get very difficult in a shared campaign, in a living world campaign like this. My personal suggestion is that those adventures take place, not literally on the material plane, not on the mortal world of Ikoros, but in other planes. Astral plane, plane of shadows, plane of fairy, maybe even in the outer darkness, elemental planes, dread domains of hell, or demi-planes. Just me as a GM, demi-planes is one of my favorite things to do in the tier 4 play, or just the upper levels in D&D in general. Characters go and get involved with quests that have to do with very powerful factions and NPCs and very powerful villains. And inevitably someone has created a demi-plane of their own, and maybe there's been like decades or centuries even of growing this demi-plane and furnishing it and building it to have the specific properties and features that the creator wants. And I think that's a fantastic way, and that keeps things from like having world-wrecking consequences upon the world of Ikoros. So that's my personal suggestion. I even have like the very beginning, like the seed of an adventure idea up in my Woesweird region in northern misbegotten remote Magnaland for a very high level adventure. And we'll see. There's so many things I want to do, and there's only so much time I have. Great question. It is definitely something that the GMs are all discussing, and we'll sooner or later we'll have to come up with some solutions for it. Bertie Sanders. Hey, Bertie, how's it going? Getting a lot of classic commenters here tonight. Hope you're doing well. Bertie Sanders, the writer. Do you have any advice on writing magic for a fantasy campaign? So, writing magic. There's a lot of advice out there. There's a whole bunch of different YouTube videos about this, and they do fantastic jobs. And I'm not going to be able to come anywhere near close to that just here on the spot. So what I can do is give you a somewhat short answer that is just from my own personal experience of what I've done. Fantasy campaign. So by putting campaign in there, I'm understanding this as role-playing game. Think about where does the magic come from and how mysterious do you want it to be? In Myriad Legends, the magic comes from when the gods' physical bodies died, gods and titans and whatnot, died during wars in the Age of Cataclysms, this like ancient primordial era. And the blood of the gods seeped into the world, seeped into the environment, even seeped into creatures. So there are these wondrous features and powers that imbued into many things, as it was the ichor, the blood of the gods. That's where the name Ichoros comes from. So the magic ultimately comes from that. It comes from the gods, whether directly or indirectly. That'd be kind of the arcane magic, or maybe even all the magic. But when I think of arcanus, I think of them, drawing ambient forces from what essentially was imbued by the spilled blood of the dead gods in the Age of Cataclysms. So that already is given some a direction. Like, okay, now you know where the magic comes from. So you can start with that. Where does the magic come from? Does it come from gods? Does it come from some creature? Does it come from some object? Is it just its own innate, neutral, non-personal force that exists throughout the universe or the cosmos or whatever you have? Are there special crystals in like certain like deep caves in the world? Does it come from dragons? Does it come from the dreams of outer gods? That's going to give you a direction if you find out where the magic comes from. How mysterious is it? If it's very not mysterious, it's all like cut and dry, sort of like what you think of with the D&D spell. This is how you produce the effect. These are the exact effects. It's dependable. Or is it sort of mysterious, kind of moderately mysterious? So there are some known effects, but then there are some ways where the spells can have unintended effects, mishaps. The Wild Magic Surge in 5e is maybe the closest thing to this. The characters can experiment with magic. You can tap into magics that are not well known, and all kinds of strange things can happen. Or I guess you could make an RPG where the magic is kind of fully mysterious. It's just not really well known. Maybe the characters are more inclined to be like martial type warrior characters. And if you dabble into magic, you know that you're playing with fire. There's going to be random rolls left and right and consequences and prices to pay. And it's going to be kind of a sword and sorcery style magic. So yeah, those are two things I would suggest to you. You just made me think that after my my cantrip video that I recently made, I've been wanting to develop the Ichoros lore about cantrips, because I don't want that. I don't want a world where spellcasters can just infinitely cast free magic. That seems like a terrible idea for world building and writing. So it might be something simple I do. I'll probably just put a simple little line or paragraph into the lore about like the dangers of excessive cantrip casting, and if somebody casts a cantrip over and over again, or really any at-will magic. There are some creatures that have other at-will magic that are not cantrips, and there are like warlocks from invocations that can get like at-will first-level spells. So it's more about free at-will magic. The world builder and the writer in me just hates that. I think that's just a terrible idea, and just it's not something you would want in a setting that has any kind of coherence to it. So, yeah, I'll probably just make a simple line about the consequences and dangers of repeated magic castings. What does that mean, repeated magic castings? Well, certainly more than what you would cast in a fight, certainly more than what you would cast in a dungeon or an adventuring day, like what you typically see in a typical session of D&D. I think we all have a general idea of what that is. I'm talking if somebody is spamming, they say, oh, I have Firebolt or Shocking Grasp, and I'm just going to cast this over and over. And I'm going to use Mold Earth to dig out like an entire city's worth of trenches and earthen ramparts and create. I'm like the girl from Frozen. I can just create whole castles like on a whim for free instantly. Wow. Yeah, that's. I'm not going to get on the hate train. I always try to stop myself from going down the hate train avenue. It's probably just going to be some kind of danger. Once you get into abusing the magic too much, then you're casting a firebolt might just burn your fingertips off or like roast your hands down to stumps. Okay, let me go back and catch up on some questions here. Corvus. Now, I take this as Corvus, the GM from Myriad Legends. If so, hello, guten Abend. Do you think we have lost more than we gained going from the black and white art of the old days to the new full color art? No. I don't think that at all. Now, they're both potentially cool ways to do art. There's amazing black and white art, and there's amazing color art, and there's bad black and white art, and there's bad color art. I think it's really just a matter of style. What's the style? What's the tone of a given RPG or even a given adventure, right? An adventure module can have its own style to it. So the things that I just personally don't care for are the color digital art that's like very digital looking. It's very clean and shiny, as you might have noticed from my books, or like the style guides on Myriad Legends. That ain't my cup of tea. Not that simpler line work can't work, but you know what I'm talking about. The shiny, super clean, sterile, everybody's happy, this kind of like giddy, flashy, goofy, cartoony, super, super digital, super sleek, modern looking. That's not my thing. I like depth. I like texture. I like grit. I like things that seem like an old world. I like things that look mythic. I like things that seem kind of mysterious. I like things that are historically inspired. I like artists that have a signature style. I love it when an artist has a unique signature style. That's a rare thing, and it's really cool to come across. I could talk about art all night long, man. That is just such a huge passion of mine. Stephen Kennedy, what 4E book was he suggesting? I will show you. It is right here. Monster Vault, Threats to the Nintir Vale. Not a large volume at all. It's a thin one, and it's as you can see, it's a soft cover. But yeah, I've been wanting to do a video on this book, so I'll be doing that sometime soon. My favorite 4E bestiary. I think it's really well made. Actually, I'll show off that piece that I made reference to, the Tiger Claw Barbarians piece. Here it is. I know this is not an ideal way to show an art piece, but yeah, I was blown away when I saw that in this book. It's just not what you expect to see in... I'm not going to say... You just don't expect to see that in more modern stuff. I know that this is probably 2000... What? 2010? 9? When is this? Copyright 2011. Okay, so this is sort of later in the lifespan of 4E. Just sort of unexpected. Now, I will round out that comment by saying there actually is some fantastic 4E art. Now, it's not all fantastic. There's some stuff that I don't know, this too World of Warcrafty, but there is a lot of really good 4E art. They had some very talented artists and some really good art directing going on there. I think there was even still a couple Michael Comark pieces in 4E, if I'm not mistaken, or that might have been towards the end of 3E. But there was a lot of Wayne Reynolds and Wayne England, and Wayne England stuff got really good in 4E. And there was still some Thomas Baxa in 4E. There was Scott Prescott and Zoltan Boros, and I meant Steve Prescott. Yeah, like the classic cadaver collector, Steve Prescott. Though that might actually be that's actually the 3E illustration, which is a fantastic one. However, there is a new illustration, which is a Wayne England at the beginning of this book, and that I think is the best cadaver collector art in all of D&D. Fantastic Wayne England piece. And gory, as all get out. There is some great art in 4E. It's not all great, but there's some good stuff in there. Okay. Vulpus Corum, you were the channel that introduced me to D&D. That's really cool to know. You know, I've had the privilege of introducing a number of people to D&D just as a GM over the years, and that's yeah, that's a special thing. I love seeing new people come into the game. I love playing with new players. They come in with like this fresh pair of eyes and this sense of wonder. You know, someone who's never played a TTRPG before, there's just that wonder, that wondrous sense, and they're not yet like constrained by the kind of expectations that the industry or other players can put into their heads over time, right? There's still a kind of, there's an openness that I find really wondrous. Let me see if I have time for another question or two. Clash and Cruise. As for the Bard Live, immediate click. Great to see you. Thank you immensely for all you do for the D&D community, brother. My pleasure. Really, it's an honor to get to do this work, and it's really because of you guys, everyone who supports me, whether it's watching my videos, support the channel on Patreon, buying my books, playing in Myriad Legends, whatever you do, in whichever way you interact, you guys make this possible, and it means the world to me. Glenn, old enough that I remember when there were no cantrips. So there were cantrips in 3E, but they weren't unlimited. They were level 0 spells, cantrips, and you whatever, got 4 of them a day or something, and they were very, very minor magics, even more minor than what they are now. The cantrips in 5E are actually pretty strong, and the at-will magic in 4E also was decently strong. So I guess you're saying 2nd edition didn't have cantrips, or maybe 1st edition didn't have cantrips. 138 MMA. Been running a campaign for a year and a half now, and I have it mapped in terms of plot, but the late middle portion of a campaign is the most difficult for me as a DM. What stage is the most challenging for you? Yeah, I think that's probably true for everybody. Yeah, once you've been playing a campaign for a year and a half, and you're even past the midpoint, and you're getting into the later phase, like you got to really have some steam behind you and be doing what you can to keep putting fuel in the tank. So I'm going to take this as you're not burnt out on the campaign. You're not ready to put a close to it yet. and you want to keep it going for a little while still. And like there might be like an end point or a final climactic battle or some great final moment that you're aiming toward, and you really want to get there. So a hard lesson I learned, and this was from the Mirrormorn live stream campaign, is as a GM, you might really want that final battle, that final epic moment. And the players might want it too, but it can still be far off, and the players are getting weary of the campaign, and your slow burn has been burning for maybe too long, and it's starting to get weary, and it's starting to be a bit of a drag on the group. And then you say, "Oh shit, but they can't fight the final boss now, because to fight him they have to go to his castle, and his castle has all these thralls and traps, and like you'd have to be at least 10th level and have a bunch of powerful allies in order to go to Voddenhold. They can't go to Voddenhold at 7th level, and especially certainly not with just their party." So what do, right? Do you like suddenly change your final villain and he's not quite as powerful, or his layer isn't as strong, or like all of the different plot points that the players have been making their way through, all of the adventures and like hard won successes that the characters have struggled through and earned it in order to increase their chances of storming the final boss's stronghold and taking him down and defeating his allies and thralls and traps and whatnot. All that's just going to be undone because you say, well, we can't wait that long anymore, so it's just already now the appropriate level for you guys. Like, hey, good on you for doing all that work just for me to, in a contrived way, retcon it all. I guess it's not a retcon, but it's I don't know, what do you call that? It's modifying the planned future event based on what is happening presently. It sort of reminds me of when a writer has a book series, and is aiming for this great final moment, right? Aiming for this great conclusion. And there are all these clues woven throughout the book series, and like the plotting and like the little hidden hints and little seeds for the astute readers to pick up on. All that foreshadowing gets undone because the writer second guesses himself, or a lot of the fans have like figured out the great reveal at the end, or what's going to happen, or figured out the mystery before the book actually gets there. And then the author like changes things. And that sucks because just like those players in the campaign who have fought through those various adventures, those various arcs to accomplish things and build up a plot and lay the groundwork and do all the foreshadowing for the great climax to come, that all gets watered down and changed and maybe even ruined, and it's never going to be as satisfying. So yeah, what do? You speed run it and just like, all right guys, we're going to play these encounters really fast so we can get through this quicker. I don't know. I don't think that's a great idea, but you could do that. You just bite the bullet and just like lock in and just go at it with cold determination. We are going to do this the right way, the proper way, and we're going to play this through. And we're not going to abandon ship, and we're not going to, call it quits at the 11th hour. We're going to hang in for the next 6 months and see this through to the proper end that we've been building towards. That's what I did with Mirrormorn. That is a thing you can do. There's not a great solution, man. There's not a magic bullet here. It's either you lock in and grind it out, and you probably burn yourself and some players out in the process, or you do some finagling, and it's just not as satisfying as actually making it to the proper conclusion, because you get this sort of like wonkified, contrived conclusion. I don't know, man. There might be some like silver bullet magic potion solution that I just don't know of. There might be some creative thing. I just chalk it up to lessons learned. Lessons learned as a GM. Next time, maybe don't make your final villain quite so powerful. Maybe don't make him this like centuries old fire giant Magus Lord who's been plotting the comeback and reclaiming of the entire realm for all this time, and like secretly building up his army and his lair. Maybe it's the fire giant lord's son. And like he's coming in with like his smaller army, and it's not, you don't have to be a 10th level party with powerful allies to take it on. You can be a 7th level party. Maybe I got time for one more question here. I know I didn't really fully answer your question. I don't really have a full answer to it. I just have a ramble. That's all I had. I'm scrolling here through for a question. Here's one in Portuguese by RP. Now, it's not RP Die, it's RP Dai. Oi, Espa. Qual seria o melhor app ou método para mapas do mundo, na sua opinião? Well, you asked for my opinion. What is the best app or method for making world maps? So this is just my opinion. I'm going to give you my personal opinion, what I personally like to do. This is the best for me and what I like the best. This is not necessarily the best for you or the best for everyone else. I like to make them myself from scratch. I like to create them. Original maps. Now, I mean, obviously I take inspiration from other sources. We all are taking inspiration and influences all the time. But whether I draw it by hand on paper or draw it in Photoshop, that's what I think is the best. I know there are fantastic tools out there, and that's cool, and I even, what would I say? I'm open to utilizing kind of whatever tool, as long as it's a tool in my tool belt, and in the end, I'm the creator who's actually creating the original piece. So I know some people like Incarnate. What else does world maps? Don John might do world maps. I'm actually not the best person to ask for apps and software and stuff, because I'm mainly either paper or Photoshop and making stuff from scratch. So again, I'll use kind of any tool that's out there. I'm not like opposed to that. I'm just saying that in the end, generating something or using something like Incarnate, where you're just selecting kind of like, what would you call those, stamps or predefined objects and textures, and just kind of like, it's always going to look like an Incarnate map. Now, I'm not knocking Incarnate. This is just, I'm an artist. I like making original ones, so that's what I think is the best. If a GM just kind of like hand draws a map, I think that's cool, even if he's not an artist and it's has many imperfections. One further note, or one additional point: world map. That's big. That's really big. You might start with just a region map. Make just like one region of the world, and then maybe you could make another region or zoom out from there. If you're just like one guy with like your own home group and campaign, I would suggest start with like a region or like one country or a couple, like a border between a couple of neighboring countries, and focus on making that sort of deeper and more interesting and fleshed out first before you try to design a whole world. Trust me, I've learned the hard way. Let's see. Oh, what have I done? You still there? Okay. Just want to. Oh, right. I'm using YouTube for my chat feed. That's why I got thrown off. I thought that was the side panel of OBS. All right, guys. I think that'll do it. Thank you, everybody, for the questions, for the support, for the comments, for being here. Thanks, everyone, for playing in Myriad Legends. And for those who are interested in joining, once again, check out the link in the video description. Join onto the Discord. And that's just like the general commons area of the Esper the Bard Discord. And then message one of the admins that I have listed there who will let you in, right? It's like the secret knock. And we will let you into the guild hall, and you will be able to take part in the Living World campaign. Thanks, everyone. Wishing you a good night, and may your adventures be many.